welcome back to my channel. So this week we are going to be talking about all things military and fertility, focusing on the Army because I'm in the Army and my husband's in the Army. My husband is an Army reservist and I am active duty. So we're going to talk about how the military, aka Tricare, provided for us, or lack thereof, during this process. I also want to talk about the regulations that will cover you while you're going through this process, both you and your spouse. And hopefully this can help you and you can speak educatedly or wisely on your process to your leadership in order to just kind of help facilitate and make it easier process. I do want to start off by saying that I have great leadership, and so they were truly understanding and supportive while I was going through this process. So I really didn't have a lot of stress in saying, hey, like, no, this is what the regulation says. It was them saying, okay, hey, how can we support you? And I know sadly everybody doesn't have that. So I want to make sure that you have the regulations to support you, because I know that everybody isn't as lucky as I am to have as great leadership as I have had. So that's how we're gonna do. So let's start. I want to start off talking about just kind of the process, what we went through, and then we're gonna jump into the regulation, and I'm also gonna talk about what Tricare paid for and what Tricare did not pay for. Okay, so how we went about our process is my husband was originally on Tricare Select. After talking to my PCM, we made the decision to bring him on Tricare Prime. And then he went to go see his primary care physician here on post. And so we basically told her, hey, we're trying to conceive. We've been running into issues. We think that he needs to see a fertility specialist. On the installation that we are on, there is no OB services, nor is there any fertility support. So we got referred to Portsmouth. But because that location had an over a 30-day wait for him to get an analysis, we went back to his primary care physician, who then again went back to referral management and was like, hey, the wait is super long. And so we were able to go see a civilian provider, which was Shady Grove Fertility. In another video, I'm going to talk about our process with them, our pros and cons, and kind of just our experience. So look forward to that, okay? So he did his semen analysis in 2021, and then we got that back. And based on what they said, they said that his numbers were high, his motility was fine. The morphology, as I stated in my previous video, was the only concern, but it wasn't really a concern for the reproductive endocrinologist, aka a fertility specialist. So we ended up taking that to my PCM, who at the time, I am so thankful for her because she listened to me when I said something was wrong. So I let her know what was said, and so then she put in a referral for me to go get tested. Again, the two locations that we could go to for fertility testing had over 30-day waits, which I took that back to her, and she again went back to referral management and said, hey, this wait time is over 30 days. So I qualified to get referred out for fertility testing, which ended up being, again, Shady Grove, which is the Richmond area Shady Grove Fertility Clinic. And they ran all our testing. They also did what is called it's basically like an STD but fatal, and also dangerous diseases and stuff test. They took over 40 vials of blood from us, and they ran all that. I also did a HSG, which I talked about in my previous video, which checked my tubes. I got all my OB paperwork sent over to them because, again, I did have fibroids and I had my fibroids removed. So he got all of that. They did ultrasounds to make sure that my uterus looked normal, to make sure that I had a uterus, to make sure that I had fallopian tubes. Like I said, the HSG testing found that one of my tubes was blocked. We checked to make sure that I didn't have any polyps, meaning any growths on my uterus at that time. So when everything came back and we discovered that one of my tubes was blocked, they suggested intrauterine insemination, which would have been the first process. So we took that diagnosis and everything he said back to my PCM. And again, she put in a referral for me to go to one of the military facilities that provided that service. Now, I will say this, is that military facility in the DC area, the wait list was over 6 months for intrauterine insemination. And the person that picked up the phone was extremely rude, and just wasn't friendly. This is a very intimate process, and you want people that are going to be kind to you, people that are going to be understanding and treat you with grace. And I will just say that the young lady, well, she's not a young lady, the older lady that picks up the phone and makes your appointments is not very kind. And she doesn't, and she's not very welcoming, as well as the location in another Virginia installation where you go to get your blood work done. They are not very friendly at all and unwelcoming, as well as the OB services there. The woman that answers the phone there is very rude, unwelcoming, and I personally filed an ICE complaint just because of how she spoke to me. And I'm not one to be like, oh, I'm just going to complain because no, like you treat people kindly. And I just wasn't treated kindly by these people. But nevertheless, we did get put on the wait list. And so me and my husband then made the decision, hey, while we're waiting, let's go ahead and try IUI with Shady Grove. And that's when we discovered that the military, aka Tricare, does not pay for any fertility treatments at all outside of the MTF. And even then, doing IVF or IUI, there are costs affiliated with it. So doing an IUI at a military facility, the one in the DC area, all you pay is about $200, and that's the lab cost for the sperm wash, which they wash the sperm to get the strongest and the healthiest sperm in order to do the insemination. And then IVF, you're looking anywhere between $7,000 to $12,000 to $15,000, just depending on what you need done, whether it be ICSI or I don't know if they do donor eggs, but it just depends. So, and then prices change. So again, so we were told we would be looking anywhere between like $7,000 to about, let's say $11,000 to $12,000. So we said, okay, we were gonna do IUI, and we ended up going with Shady Grove. And with the military discount that we got from Shady Grove, we ended up paying $1,020, right, for each cycle. What Tricare ended up covering, though, was the letrozole, which was the medicine that I took. They also covered the trigger shot, which was an HCG trigger shot. And that was it. But that was all I needed for IUI. And so I was told that I could go back and see about the ultrasounds, but I don't know if the ultrasounds were billed to Tricare, and that $1,000 was only for the procedure. That is something, again, that I will address in the video about Shady Grove that just wasn't clear to me. So again, we paid $1,000, right? That's $1,020 for IUI cycle. So we did that, and like I stated in our previous video, the first one was successful, but we ended up having a miscarriage. And then again, we were still waiting, and so we tried another cycle with Shady Grove. Finally, I want to say come October. Now, mind you, we did our first cycle. We started this January of 2022. We didn't hear from that other location, the military location, until October for an appointment, for a consultation, all of that stuff. Luckily, I did all my testing with Shady Grove, and this is something that I want to make sure that I mention, is that the young lady told me that I would have to do all my testing over. When I called back again and said, hey, I did all this testing based on the referral from my PCM, are you sure that I need to do the testing over again? And she blew up at me and was like, I never told you that, blah, 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 blah. Again, you get what I'm saying? It's not very welcome. But anyway, so just not very welcoming. So we did our second cycle, which ended up being a chemical pregnancy. And then our last one ended up not working at all, which was the one that we did with the military facility. In that, now in the one we did with the military facility, we got all our meds there directly, whereas the ones we did with Shady Grove, they went through Freedom Fertility Pharmacy, and those were mailed to us. Either way, and it ended up working out for us perfectly, getting medication-wise. Now, I want to talk about the profile that you get once you start a fertility treatment. So I'm going to get my handy dandy iPad because I want to make sure that I give you all the details correctly, right? So well, it's not a regulation, it's a directive. The directive that it needs to become your friend for not just fertility, for parenthood, pregnancy, postpartum, all of that. For the Army is Army Directive 2022-06, right? AD 2022-06. And this is your new friend if you are in the Army, right? And so for fertility, you're going to scroll down to G. It's page 7 of the regulation. And it's going to say fertility treatment. And so here's the things that come along with you being on fertility treatment. So you qualify for stabilization, if you've received a justification memo for treatment or a referral to a fertility specialist by a gynecologist, your PCM, if you don't have OB services at your installation, you will be stabilized at your permanent duty station for up to 365 days, and that's for you and your spouse if you are dual military, right? Again, my husband is a reservist, so this does not affect him. But if you are dual military, this comes in handy to know this. Now, you can also receive a stabilization extension if you are going through fertility treatments. ABCP program, right? So the Army Height and Weight program. Once you start your fertility treatments, depending on what you do, that will depend on how your weight management is done. So if you are doing IUI, you receive a 30-day exemption from the ABCP program. And if you're doing IVF, it's 90 days. Now with IUI, because you can do, if you're doing with a civilian clinic, you can do it every month. So again, you just renew your profile every time you start the medication. Whereas with IVF, it's a longer process, right? So you, depending on what needs to be done and what you're doing within your IVF treatment. So in that, also leave. I'm going to read this word for word because it seems like some commanders have an issue with this part. It says commanders should grant a non-chargeable absence or con leave for soldiers on a fertility profile and or the Army spouse of an individual undergoing fertility treatment so that they can attend their fertility treatment appointments and or recover as needed. There's no travel distance limitation for soldiers who need to continue treatment away from their home station. Requests for absences must be made 14 days in advance and may be denied only by the soldier's general court-martial convening authority or higher commander. So I say that because I don't want people to bully you out of taking the con leave. And I know some of you that may be watching this may be part of some of like the fertility support groups for the military. And I've seen this repeatedly. Some of the women saying, oh, you don't need recovery time after your egg retrieval because, oh, I did it and I got back the next day. That's cool. But remember, everybody's body is different. For example, after my egg retrieval, my ovaries were so swollen that I was in so much pain. And then I also could not sleep laying down. My husband literally had to pad pillows and I had to sleep sitting straight up. That's not comfortable or convenient to go to work. So make sure that you move according to your body and take the days. Take the days. So from what I'm tracking is you can take, based on whatever your fertility specialist works out, you can take 30 days. And with the new policy of how it can be TDY and paid for your travel and staying there, when we did this, the TDY portion was not available, but I didn't take all 30 days, but I took days. I took 12 days between my egg retrieval and when I went back to work to give my body time to rest and restore itself. Now, for IVF, I want you to know what Tricare covers. So for IVF, since we did not do it at a MTF, and this is the reason why we didn't do it at the MTF, because that same MTF lost all of our paperwork. They had my husband in as the sponsor, which again, my husband is a reservist, and a reservist not on orders does not qualify to use the MTF for IVF. They had him in the wrong branch and the wrong rank. Right? So these were all problems that we were now facing with another 6 to 7 month wait list. So we made the decision that, hey, if we're still going to have to pay for this, we were going to use a civilian clinic. Now, if you use an MTF, the MTF prices differ. I've seen a different price list for the San Antonio location, the JBLM location, the Hawaii location, and the DC location. So everywhere is different, but for the DC location, we were told that to do the egg retrieval, ICSI, the PGTA testing, and all of that, we were looking at about $10,000, right? So me and my husband are officers, and $10,000 is still a lot of money. So I can only imagine soldiers that are lower enlisted that need this and the process of how they're going through to try to pay for this, right? It's a lot. So people can say what they want, but this is my personal opinion. I feel that fertility treatment should be covered by the military. That is my personal opinion. You guys can say what you want. You can quickly about this treatment, because it's not our fault that we need help. So why, if we are supposed to have some of the greatest insurance, and that's one of the retention points, it's not a retention point. My personal opinion. Hey, but anyway, so we made that decision and we went back to Shady Grove because the nurses had made us feel comfortable. And so we did end up spending almost $22,000 because now Tricare again does not cover any fertility treatments. And so the $22,000 covered the egg retrieval and the egg transfer. It covered PGTA testing for all of our embryos. And then the meds that I got. Now, Tricare did pay for my triggers, the 2 different triggers that I had. They paid for the cetricide that I showed you in the video, that was to keep me from ovulating. And then they paid for the birth control. What they did not pay for were the stimulant medications, the Menopur and the Gonal F. Those are the most expensive on the list. And there was not even like a discount or anything. Menopur can go as high as $80 per vial. And I needed 5 boxes, right? So each box comes with 5. So you do the math. And then Gonal, I needed over like 4 boxes of Gonal, and Gonal is about $300 a pen. So we were looking at significant numbers just so that we could be able to afford to move on to the next steps. Did it financially work out for us? Yes. And we're lucky, but it's just not fair, right? And so I'm letting you know now, Tricare just doesn't cover that. Tricare does cover the ultrasounds that you would get throughout the process. They cover the blood work, all of that stuff, but they don't cover the procedures. They don't cover, also they don't cover the anesthesia. So that $22,000 also covered the anesthesia that we had to pay for the day of my egg retrieval, because you do go under anesthesia for the egg retrieval. And so that's basically what Tricare pays for and did not pay for. I also want you to know that try your hardest to plan out the best you can. And I know you may not feel comfortable divulging everything, but you have to be willing to be open and honest with your leadership about what's going on. I know that that's not always an easy process, and I'm saying this coming from somebody that did have a super supportive leadership. So me saying, hey, this is what's going on, this is what I need, was easy for me because they were supportive. They truly believe in the soldier first mantra and philosophy. But I understand that everybody does not have that. So just kind of be aware and know what regulations you have. And then the other thing that I also want you to be aware of is that you can gain weight from doing this. So I know that you may get self-conscious about it, or other people, like in my case, other people decided to have conversations about my weight or talk about looking the part as a leader. And unfortunately for me, I couldn't control that. My body reacted to the medicines and I gained weight. So that is something that could possibly happen to you. So just be aware of that. I've learned that you need to speak up for yourself and defend yourself as best as you can. But sometimes you don't owe people an explanation. If the people that need to know what's going on are aware, that's all that matters. So like I said, AD 2022-06 is your friend for this process. And then the other thing that my MTF did do is that they provided my betas. So that's the blood test, pregnancy test. Now, it was covered with Shady Grove under the full payment, but if I didn't, driving all the way to that location versus just going to my MTF was a lot easier to just go to my MTF for my betas. And then they were able to communicate that test results to my fertility clinic. So that is something that we were able to do. What else? Make sure you stay on top of your profile. Make sure you stay on top of having everything that you need in and documented. And then make sure that your fertility clinic is sharing your medical records with your MTF. That way you have supporting documents, and then you're not always requesting records. They can share and share those records, as well as with your OBGYN if you are going to an outside facility. And yeah, so that's pretty much everything Army Tricare related. Now, there are some people that have said that they got secondary insurance, or like meaning their spouse is not a service member and they were able to use their spouse's insurance. Now, I've heard different things that Tricare won't let you do that, and I've heard that it's possible, but just know that Tricare must deny it initially for you to now go on to secondary insurance. Some fertility clinics won't even bill Tricare if you have another set of insurance and you don't tell them about it. It just all depends on how you do it. I'm not saying do anything that you're not supposed to, but ask those questions. Ask Tricare, because I don't work for Tricare, so I can't tell you what they will or will not do. What I can tell you is what they will not pay for, because they ain't paid for it for me. But I can't tell you, yes, that you cannot use I've heard different stories, so I don't know how that works. But I do hope that my information was helpful of my process. If there are questions that you have or something that I didn't answer that pertains specifically to you, please leave a comment and I will respond to you as quickly as possible. If you follow me on social media under Auntie Kalechi, and you want to send me a DM because it's more private, please do reach out and I'll respond to you about fertility and being in the service. But thank you so much for listening and tuning in. I hope that helped you out today, and I will see you next time where we talk about our transfer. Bye.